I thank the chairman. I thank the chairman Goodlatte for yielding. I rise in strong support of H.R. 26, the REINS Act. This bill is the beginning of making America great again. That's because it puts Americans back in charge of the laws being imposed upon them. How does the legislation do that? Under our Constitution, we have three branches. The executive branch is supposed to enforce the law. The judicial branch is supposed to resolve disputes arising under the law. And the legislature, this House and the Senate, the branch directly elected by the people, is supposed to make the law. But over the last decades, we've seen more and more of the lawmaking in this country migrate to unelected bureaucrats in the executive branch. Those bureaucrats churn out regulation after regulation that have the full force and effect of law. The problem with this setup is that the people of this country are supposed to consent to the laws being imposed upon them. They do that through their elected representatives in Congress. In short, this legislation goes to the heart of what self-rule is all about. Let me be clear. This legislation does not end regulation. It is the beginning of accountability for regulation. If there's a good regulation that a member believes makes sense and does not unduly burden jobs and wages, that member may vote to approve the regulation. And if the people that member represents disagree, they get to hold him or her accountable at the ballot box. My colleagues across do not fear taking responsibility for the laws and regulations coming out of Washington, D.C. Over the last 7 years, Washington regulations have hurt many working families. We've seen coal miners and power plant workers lose good jobs. We've seen small Main Street community banks and credit unions forced into mergers. We've seen farmers worry about puddles on their farms. We've seen people lose their health insurance, their doctors, and we've seen the Little Sisters of the Poor have their religious freedom threatened, all without the consent of the people. It's time, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, to put the American people back in charge, not the unelected bureaucrats. Let's take the power away from Washington. Let's restore self-rule. Let's pass this bill. I thank the chairman and